Hello everyone. So today I'm going to build a RGB to hex converter, and we are going to use ChatGPT to build this tool. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to first sign into ChatGPT account and then start with building prompts. In the first part of this video, we will build a basic generator, and in the second half of the video, we will add some features to our RGB to hex converter. So let's start off with the actual coding part. The first prompt that we need to add to ChatGPT is to ask ChatGPT to build a RGB to X converter using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with code. So the prompt is steps to build RGB to X converter with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with code. And this is what it generates. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to first copy the HTML which is generated. It contains the form fields for red, green, and blue values and a convert button, and then a result to show the actual result. So we are using CodePen and we are going to paste the HTML into the HTML part, and we will get some HTML like this, which is RGB to X converter, form fields, and the convert button. Next thing that we need to take care of is the CSS. So let's copy the generate CSS from ChatGPT and paste it into the CSS part. Now the RGB to X converter is center aligned. We have the form values arranged properly, and we have the convert button at the bottom. The next thing that we need to take care of is the JavaScript part. So let's copy the code and paste it into the JS part. Now let's go through the JavaScript code a little bit. The first thing that we need is the convert button click listener, because we need to convert the RGB values to X values when we click on the convert button. So we are taking the convert button ID using document.getElementById. Then we are storing the result div variable. In that we are storing the result div document.getElementById. Then on convert button we are adding a click listener, and on click listener we are first extracting the RGB values from the form fields. If they are null or not added, then we show that please enter RGB values. If they are less than 0 or greater than 255, then we show RGB values must be 0 to 255, because that is the color code convention, that is the value should be between 0 to 255. Then we have the X value generator, which we have a formula which is supposed to convert the values from X values to RGB values to X values, and then we show that within the result div using result div.inner.html. So let's try to see how if this works using the code. So we'll add 12, 21, and 12 and click on convert. And as you can see, we have the X value printed out, which is at C1 150C. So the basic working of RGB to X converter is complete. The next thing that we can do is we can improve the CSS a little bit. So I asked ChatGPT that can we improve the CSS so that it looks a little professional, and the RGB values are horizontal in one line. So this is what it generated. So let's copy the updated CSS values and paste it into our code. Now we have the convert button in green color and the form values a little bit better. Now what we are going to do is there is a form field here which contains display flex. So we will rename it to .rgb form. Then we'll come to our HTML code and we'll add a div just before the three values, and we'll add a div here and then close it at the end of the RGB values. And we'll assign the class to this div, which is equal to RGB form. Hit save. Now the values are horizontally placed, so it is easier to add the values. The next thing that we can do is we can add some margin left from the G and V values. So in the label part, we'll add a margin left. So this is the label which is shown for RGB. So we'll add a margin left of 10 px. Hit save. And now as you can see, we have a RGB to X converter, which is a little bit better in terms of looks. And now if we hit convert, we have the X value. So this is the basic working of the RGB converter. The next thing that we can do is we can generate a preview of the color code generated, like we can show what this color actually looks like. So for that, I tried a couple of prompts in the code. And before that, what we need to do is we should rewrite the JavaScript logic because it is a little bit hard to understand. So here the formula is it is using left shift operator, but there has to be a easier way to write the code. So I asked ChatGPT to rewrite the RGB to X converter into easy to understand JavaScript, and this is what it came up with. So here what we are doing is we are taking the red value and we are converting it into the 16-bit base. That is, we are converting the decimal value to hex value. Then we are using the pad start method to add a 0 if the length is less than 2. What this means is if we add 12 here and it gets converted to C, so we need to add 0C, right? So we need to add a 0 before the C value. So what pat start does is it converts the string to the length that you specified. So we need to convert it to string with 2 characters, and it adds the empty character which is specified in the second argument. So for example, in this case, pat star creates a string with 2 characters and adds 0 before the character, so that it is converted from C to 0C. So this is how it works. So if we add pat star, so let's just say string is 5, and if we add pat star 2 comma 0, and the generated string will be 0 5. So accordingly, what we are doing is we are generating 0C in case of when the value is single digit or single letter. And this is a little bit easy to understand code. So let's copy the code and add it to our JavaScript section. So now let's test the code again, that whether it works. So we'll add the same values and we have the output. Now the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a preview div, and in the preview div we are going to show the generated color code. So as ChatGPT, that can be show a preview of generated X color code and do the result div and highlighting the result div. So yeah, this is the one. So what we are going to do is we are going to add a preview div just after the result div. Then we are going to add a center tag to the body so that everything is in center. Then in the JavaScript code, we will take the preview div document, the preview div pointer by using document.getElement by ID. So this will point to the preview div. And in the last code, we will add preview div dot style dot background color is equal to X value. So basically, we will set the background color of the preview div to the X value which is generated. The next thing that we need to do is we need to add some properties to the preview div. So we'll copy the result values, and here we'll add preview. So we don't need all this. We need margin top. Then we'll set some width and height to preview div, like width 100 px, height let's just say 50 px, and some border radius. Let's just say 5 px. Let's hit save, and now let's test out the code. So we'll add the same values here. Now if we click on convert, we have a preview here. So this is how it looks. So if we change the color code values, the preview div changes the color code. The next functionality which we can add is the copy button here, so that the user is able to copy the X color code directly. So we are going to ask ChatGPT to create a copy button, and on the side of the X color code generator, and it should be able to copy the text. So we'll add the span and the copy button here within the result div. Then we'll add some width to the result div, like width should be set to 200 px. Then we'll check out the JavaScript code which is generated now. So we have the X value span and copy button values added. So let's paste that. So X value is the new span which is added, and the copy button which is the copy button. Then we have a copy button key listener which is able to copy the code which is generated. So let's add a function which is click listener to the copy button, and this will be able to copy the code. Then here we will add X value span dot inner HTML is equal to the X value instead of the result div. So instead of result div dot inner HTML, we will add X value span dot inner HTML is equal to the generated X value. Let's see if this works. So we'll add the same value here. So this is the X value which is generated, and let's click on copy, and let's just see if we on pasting we get the color code. And as you can see, we have the value which X value which is generated. Now the thing is, it is copying the entire code. So what we can do is we can keep the inner HTML of the X value span as the X value. And in the result div, we can add the inner HTML, which is hex code. So result div, or we can add a span here with an ID X title. Then we can add a reference to the X title, like X title, copy the ID. Then while creating the values, we can add X title dot inner HTML is equal to X value and the same. And let's just see if this works. So we have the X value, and let's just copy the code and see. Now, as you can see, we have the bright color code copied. So this is how it works. Now the thing is, the copy button like initially should not be displayed. So what we can do is initially we can hide this copy button. So we can copy the copy button ID. And initially we can set this to display null. And when the copy button or the convert button is clicked, we can show the copy button by using style dot display is equal to block. Hit save. So now the copy button is not visible initially. And on clicking on the convert button, we have the copy button and the preview shown as well. Next thing that we can do is we can arrange these two values side by side. So for that, in the result div, we can set the display to flex. So let's just set the display to flex value. Then I think we need to increase the width a little bit. Then we can set align items, center, and justify content. To center. Now the copy button has some margin which needs to be removed. So in copy button, we can set margin to 0 px and some left margin. So as you can see, we have the copy button arranged properly. And let's hit save. Now let's refresh the page and check for one last time. So we hit save and hit refresh. Now if we add the values, so this is how it looks. And this is the Xcode. This is the copy button. I think it removed the last save. Let me just add it again. Or what we can do is we can set the margin to top and bottom to 0 and left and right to 10 px. Hit save. Now let's check. So we have the X value, and what we can do is when we copy or click on the copy button, we can change this text to copied. So we come back to the JavaScript code, and on clicking on this button, what we can do is we can change the copy button inner HTML to copied. And initially, when the convert button is clicked, we can set it to copy. Hit save and let's check again. Okay, it has changed to copy. And on clicking of convert, it changes to copy. So on clicking on this button, it changes to copy, and then we can paste it wherever we want. So this finishes the basic HTML, CSS, and JS part. Now let's check how to deploy this to netlify. So what we are going to do is we can first sign into our GitHub account and then click on new repository and give it a name to something like RGB to hex converter. You can add a description if you want. Then we can add a get ignore. We can set it to node for now and license to MIT and click on create repository. Then when we are in the GitHub, we can press the dot on keyboard to change to VS Code online editor mode. This will open the repository in a editable block. Now it is loading the files. And now we can add a new file here, which is index.html. And we can copy the code from here. Then we can add a new file, which is style.css, and copy the entire CSS. And then we can add a new file here, which is script.js, and copy the JavaScript code. Now we need to add a link to our CSS and script, so it is present. So I had asked ChatGPT that. So in the last part of the first prompt, we have the link href. So let's copy that and add into the index.html just below the title tag. And then we have the script tag. Script tag should not be placed in the head tag because it can run into the error. So what we can do is we can add it just below the center tag and within the body tag, and hit save. Now let's commit this code back to the GitHub repository. So we'll add files added. So this is the version control, and we can click. So we can add these 3 files to be committed, and then click on commit and push. So this will add those files into our repository. Then we click on these 3 dots and click on go to repository. So now we have the files added into our GitHub repository, and which have the index.html, script.js, and style.css added. So now we can check whether it is added properly. As you can see, the code is added into the proper files. The next thing that we need to do is we need to sign up on an account for Netlify and sign into the Netlify dashboard. Now we can click on the add new site button here and click on import from existing project. Then select GitHub, and it will show you all the repositories that you have. So what you need to do is you need to search for the repo here. So we can search for RGB and hit enter. So you can select the repository and then click on the deploy site, and this will start deploying the site to Netlify. So you can click on the site deploy in progress to see what is happening. So click here and it will show the steps that are happening behind the scenes for deploying of the website. So it is parsing all the packages, and in some moment it will finish the deployment. So let's wait for a while. So as you can see, the final log would be site is live. Now if we go back to the deploys, the new URL would be generated here, and I think we need to hit refresh. So we can click on the generated URL. As you can see, we have the RGB to X converter live. And on clicking of the converter, as you can see, we have the preview as well as the copy button. Now what we can do is we can change the URL to a little bit better value. So click on domain settings here and click on options and site name. Then we can give it a proper name like RGB to X and hit save. So let's go with converter. Hit save. And now RGB to X converter.netlify.app would be the where your tool would be. So this finishes the overall process of building an RGB to X converter using ChatGPT and then deploying it to Netlify using GitHub. The next thing that you can do is you can like add a proper README here to show what the project is all about, and you can finish the rest of the steps. But this finishes the core part. So that's it from my end for today. I hope you got the gist of how to create an RGB to X converter and make it live using Netlify, and how to use ChatGPT to build tools like this. Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.